What if you could fill your garden with perennials that never need to be replaced, that keep coming back year after year, thriving with almost no maintenance? What if a single planting decision could give you a garden that builds itself, standing strong through drought, heat, and even the occasional deer raid? Here are 12 hardy perennials that prove this dream is entirely possible. Number 12. Hosta Sum and Substance. Imagine a chartreuse giant that spreads 3 feet across and towers 4 feet tall, proudly occupying a shaded north-facing bed without ever asking for a cutback. Hosta Sum and Substance does exactly that. Its leaves are thick, almost leathery, making them impervious to the slug damage that turns ordinary hostas into Swiss cheese riddles by August. Plant it in dappled morning shade, give it a generous 4-foot clearance on every side, and water it through the first summer. By the 3rd year, the plant will have the mass of a small car. By the 7th year, it becomes the focal point of the entire border, drawing curious visitors who can't help but ask its name. By the 20th year, it is still the same robust hosta, performing the exact same job it was hired for, with no division, no replanting, and no need for annual fertilizing. The chartreuse foliage against a dark backdrop creates a visual punch that no other shade plant can match, and because the cultivar was bred for durability, it outlasts the generic green hostas that gardeners used to divide every 5 years. The only practical note: give it space. Crowding it against a foundation shrub or a smaller hosta will stunt its majestic spread, and you'll lose the full impact of its bold color. In USDA hardiness zones 5 to 9, this hosta tolerates winter lows of 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and its rhizomes store enough carbohydrate reserves to survive even unexpected summer heat waves. Gardeners who pair it with ferns such as Ethereum niponicum or with shade-loving astilbes often report a layered texture that keeps the eye moving throughout the growing season, while the hosta itself remains a low-maintenance anchor. A short anecdote from a Pennsylvania garden shows that after a severe slug outbreak in 2018, the Sum and Substance plants emerged untouched, while neighboring hostas were decimated, underscoring the cultivar's slug resistance. For added winter interest, consider planting a low grower of Heuchera obsidian nearby. Its dark foliage complements the chartreuse leaves and provides a subtle contrast when the hosta's foliage begins to fade in late fall. Number 11. Daylily Happy Returns. Picture a compact, sunny yellow daylily that reblooms from early June all the way to the first frost, never needing a single deadhead. Daylilies are already a garden staple, but Happy Returns is the refined answer to the over-patented, chain-promoted Stella d'Oro. Both reach the same 18-inch height and share that bright yellow hue, but Happy Returns softens the tone just enough to feel fresh, opens its flowers slightly more, and carries no patent or aggressive marketing push. Plant 3 of these in a sunny front bed, water them well in the first summer, and watch the plant become a permanent ribbon of yellow. By year 5, the clump will be a continuous stream of blossoms stretching from late June through October. By year 15, it will still be the same unbroken ribbon, requiring no division or replanting. The garden centers may still tout Stella d'Oro because their supply chain is built around it, but a savvy gardener who asks for Happy Returns will find a quieter, more dependable performer that never loses its vigor. This cultivar thrives in zones 4 to 9. Tolerates alkaline as well as slightly acidic soils, and is resistant to the common daylily rust that can diminish foliage in humid climates. When planted alongside low-maintenance grasses like Carex morowai, or a border of ornamental grasses such as Pennisetum alopecuroides, the yellow spikes provide a striking contrast that highlights texture without demanding additional pruning or staking. An example from a community garden in Oregon demonstrates that after 5 years of drought, the Happy Returns clump retained its vigor while neighboring hybrids wilted, illustrating the cultivar's superior water use efficiency. For added fragrance, interplant a few clumps of Lavandula angustifolia. The lavender's scent mingles with the subtle perfume of the daylily, creating a sensory corridor that attracts pollinators and delights visitors. Number 10. Salvia Caradonna. Envision a 2-foot-tall salvia with dark, almost black stems that serve as architectural columns, supporting spikes of deep violet flowers that bloom from late May through late July, and give a modest second flush in September after a light deadheading. Salvia Caradonna distinguishes itself from the older May-night cultivar by staying upright in heavy summer rain. While May-night tends to flop, the dark stems contrast dramatically with the violet blossoms, turning a simple perennial bed into an almost sculptural display. Plant Caradonna in full sun with well-drained soil. Once established, it tolerates drought, attracts bumblebees and hummingbird moths, and needs no staking, fertilizing, or seasonal maintenance beyond a hard cutback after the first bloom to encourage the second. A clump planted in 2016 still produces the same volume of flowers 9 seasons later. No division, no replanting, no supplemental water beyond the first year. The plant simply performs, turning any sunny border into a reliable showpiece. In addition to its pollinator appeal, Caradonna contains a modest amount of natural nectar that supports native solitary bees, and its seed heads persist into winter, providing a subtle architectural interest when most other perennials have gone dormant. Gardeners who pair it with low-growth thyme, Thymus sapillum, or with a mass of creeping sedum, Sedum acre, often notice a harmonious color palette that extends the visual interest from spring through frost. A case study from a Colorado xeriscape illustrates that after a single irrigation season, the plants established a deep taproot system, allowing them to survive a record-breaking drought in 2022 with no additional watering, a testament to the cultivar's resilience. For extra winter texture, consider adding a few ornamental grasses such as Panicum virgatum. The silver-blue foliage of the grasses frames the dark stems of Caradonna, creating a dynamic contrast that changes with the light throughout the day. Number 9. Catmint walkers low. Think of a lavender-blue cloud of tiny flowers that blooms continuously from late May through September, quietly spreading to fill every empty space you might otherwise forget to weed. Walker's Low is the catmint that lives up to the lofty claims of the Hook Teas catalogue. 5 months of non-stop bloom in an American garden, a feat almost no perennial can honestly claim. The plant produces wave after wave of pale lavender-blue blossoms, attracts every native bee in the neighborhood, repels deer and rabbits, and thrives in any reasonably sunny spot with only the first summer's watering. Its spreading habit is gentle, expanding by clump growth rather than aggressive runners or seed, so it fills the space you want without invading neighboring perennials the way true mint or pennyroyal would. For gardeners who prefer no self-seeding at all, the sterile cultivar Junior Walker offers the same visual impact without any seed drop. Either way, hummingbirds and bumblebees will not care which version you choose, they will simply visit the abundant flowers. In USDA zones 3 to 9, this catmint endures winter lows of 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and its foliage retains a faint silver sheen that adds winter interest even after the blooms fade. Pairing Walker's Low with a backdrop of ornamental grasses, such as Miscanthus sinensis, or with a low-lying hosta, creates a tiered effect that makes the garden feel larger, while the catmint's scent, subtly reminiscent of rosemary, can be enjoyed by anyone strolling close enough to catch the faint aroma on a warm evening. A long-term observation from a New England backyard notes that, after 10 years, the clump expanded to a 10-foot diameter, yet the plant never became invasive, demonstrating its predictable, manageable growth. Adding a few dwarf conifers such as Juniperus communis Blue Star provides structural contrast, allowing the soft, airy catmint to float above a more solid base. Number 8. Sedum matrona. Imagine a 2-foot upright stone crop with purple-tinged stems and dusty rose flowers that open in late August and persist through hard frost. For 3 decades, the garden staple was Autumn Joy, a sedum that splits open in the middle by the 5th or 6th year, leaving a hollow ring that either needs a hard cut each spring or a full replacement. Matrona refuses to split. Its sturdier purple-tinged stems keep the clump's shape intact for at least 15 years, and its flowers provide a soft, lingering color at the tail end of the season. Sedum, in any form, demands full sun, lean soil, and almost no water. Its Mediterranean cliff face ancestry tells it to thrive in dry, well-drained conditions, not in the rich, constantly moist soils that magazines often recommend. Give it the dry, lean soil it craves, and it will reward you with a reliable, low-maintenance accent that looks identical from a distance for a decade and a half, rather than a 3-season flash that quickly fades. In zones 4 to 9, the plant tolerates temperatures as low as -40 degrees Fahrenheit, and its succulent leaves store enough moisture to survive prolonged droughts without supplemental irrigation. When paired with a border of ornamental grasses such as Schizachyrium scoparium or with a low-lying lavender, Lavandula angustifolia, the late-season pink hue of Matrona becomes a striking counterpoint to the silvery foliage of its companions, creating a multi-seasonal tableau that keeps the eye engaged from late summer until the first snow. A garden trial in Utah documented that Matrona maintained a 95% survival rate after a 5-year period of extreme heat, while a comparable autumn joy population suffered a 30% dieback, highlighting the cultivar's superior heat tolerance. For additional winter interest, interplant a few low growers of Artemisia Powys Castle. The ash-grey foliage frames the pink flowers and adds texture when the sedum's leaves turn bronze in frost. Number 7. Black-Eyed Susan, American Gold Rush. Picture a 2-foot-tall native gold-flowering plant that blooms non-stop from late June through hard frost and that genuinely resists the leaf spot disease that devastates older Black-Eyed Susan varieties. Most homeowners reach for Goldsturm because it's what every chain garden center stocks, but Goldsturm falls victim to Septoria leaf spot, leaving brown blotches on foliage by August while the flowers keep coming, creating an unsightly contrast. American Gold Rush was bred specifically for leaf spot resistance. Its foliage stays clean from June through October, and its flowers are slightly smaller but far more numerous, giving the plant a dense, full appearance throughout the entire bloom season. It tolerates drought, ignores summer heat, and self-cleanse spent flowers without any gardener intervention. By year 3, the clump becomes a dense fountain of gold that catches the eye of every neighbor. Pair it with a taller ornamental grass such as little blue stem, Schizachyrium scoparium, or prairie dropseed, Sporobolus heterolepis, and the front of the border reads like a formal design with almost no effort. A design that magazine photographs would charge $1,000 to replicate, but which you can achieve for a fraction of the price. In zones 3 to 9, this cultivar endures winter lows of -30 degrees Fahrenheit, and its deep taproot system makes it a natural soil stabilizer on slopes or in rain gardens. The plant's ability to attract a variety of pollinators, from large bees like Bombus impatiens to delicate butterflies such as the eastern tiger swallowtail, means that a single clump can support an entire miniature ecosystem, turning a simple border into a biodiversity hotspot. A practical tip from a Midwest Extension Service recommends planting American Gold Rush in rows 10 feet apart to create a golden wall that can be used as a backdrop for summer weddings or photo shoots, taking advantage of its consistent bloom and disease resistance. For added texture, mix in a few clumps of Echinacea purpurea. The coneflower's central cones provide visual contrast and extend the blooming period into early fall. Number 6. Coneflower, Echinacea purpurea. Envision the plain purple, native American coneflower that thrives for 20 years and beyond in the same spot, attracting every pollinator you can name and gently self-seeding to fill in around the original clump. Fancy hybrid coneflowers, hot papaya, Cheyenne spirit, tomato soup, may dazzle with orange, red, or yellow hues, but they rarely survive 3 winters, as documented by the Mount Cuba Center trials. The species Echinacea purpurea, by contrast, stands as the reliable workhorse of the perennial garden. Its pink-purple flowers draw butterflies, bees, and hummingbirds, while the seed heads provide winter structure when nothing else is blooming. Goldfinches strip the seed heads in winter, adding a touch of wildlife activity to the garden. A single $9 plant from a reputable garden center will outlast a $18 hybrid that disappears after a couple of seasons. Skip the flashy hybrids. The species coneflower does the job, year after year, without demanding division or replanting. In USDA zones 3 to 9, it tolerates temperatures down to -40 degrees Fahrenheit, and its deep root system makes it a champion for low-maintenance prairie restorations and pollinator corridors. When planted alongside a mass of native grasses, such as little bluestem, or alongside the silver foliage of Artemisia tridentata, the coneflower's sturdy central cones become visual anchors that lend a sense of order to a wild-looking planting scheme, while the plant's ability to self-seed ensures that the border gradually thickens without any human intervention. A long-term observation in a Pennsylvania pollinator garden shows that a 20-year-old coneflower patch still produces robust seed heads, providing food for songbirds during harsh winters. For gardeners interested in medicinal uses, the roots of mature echinacea plants can be harvested for herbal teas, though sustainable harvest practices recommend taking only a portion of the root each year to preserve the plant's longevity. Number 5. Geranium, Roseanne. Think of a hardy blue-flowered geranium that earned the Perennial Plant Association's Plant of the Year award in 2008 and has remained the most recommended hardy geranium in the United States for nearly 2 decades. Roseanne blooms from May through October in most of America, offering 5 months of small periwinkle blue flowers that require no deadheading and never decline. Its sprawling mound fills the front of a perennial bed, weaving gently among taller plants behind it, while never invading or flopping. The plant's reliability has made it a hidden gem. Most gardeners over 50 have never heard of it, even though it consistently delivers low-maintenance performance. Plant Roseanne in full sun to part shade in reasonably drained soil. Water it during the first summer and watch it perform for the next 15 years. A clump planted in 2015 still blooms continuously from late May through the first frost every single year, with no division, no replanting, and no extra care beyond that initial summer watering. It simply does its job, offering a subtle affection to the gardener who trusts it. In zones 4 to 9, it survives winter lows of 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and its foliage remains evergreen in milder climates, providing a splash of color even when the flowers have faded. Pairing Roseanne with low-growth ornamental grasses or with dwarf varieties of lavender creates a layered effect that keeps the eye moving, while the plant's tolerance for a wide pH range, 5.5 to 8.0, makes it a versatile companion for nearly any garden soil type. An anecdote from a community garden in Oregon notes that after a severe late spring frost in 2019, the Roseanne plants emerged unscathed, while many other early blooming perennials suffered extensive damage, highlighting the cultivar's frost resilience. For added seasonal interest, interplant a few early blooming dwarf iris, Iris germanica baroness. The iris's spring crocus-like flowers appear just before Roseanne begins its long display, creating a seamless transition from early spring to midsummer. Number 4. Amsonia hubrichtii. Imagine a native blue star perennial that bursts into soft sky blue star-shaped flowers from late April through late May, then transforms its foliage into a bright, clean green through September, finally turning a clear, brilliant gold in October that can be seen from 100 feet away. Amsonia hubrichtii, named Plant of the Year in 2011 by the Perennial Plant Association, remains virtually unknown to most American homeowners because chain garden centers rarely stock it, yet it is perhaps the best-kept secret in low-maintenance perennial gardening. Its dark green foliage stays pristine, it resists deer browsing entirely, and its golden autumn display offers 2 genuine seasons of dramatic color from a single plant that requires zero maintenance beyond the first year's watering. Plant it in full sun to part shade in any soil. The clump reaches 3 feet tall and 3 feet wide, staying there for 2 decades. The first time the fall color hits, you'll realize you've found a plant that truly builds a garden's backbone without demanding a single extra task. In zones 4 to 9, it endures winter temperatures as low as 35 degrees Fahrenheit, and its root system, though not as deep as a prairie grass, spreads laterally enough to stabilize soil on gentle slopes. When paired with early blooming bulbs, such as crocus, or with late-season asters, Amsonia creates a continuous color thread that spans the entire growing season, and its low-growth habit makes it an excellent foreground plant for formal borders, or a soft transition between hardscape and planting beds. A case study from a Texas xeriscape demonstrates that after 10 years, the Amsonia clump remained vigorous despite a 6-month drought, confirming its exceptional drought tolerance. For added winter texture, plant a few low growers of Heuchera lime nearby. The lime-colored foliage provides a subtle contrast to the golden foliage of Amsonia, keeping the garden interesting even after the leaves have fallen. Number 3. Garden Phlox Jana. Picture a 4-foot-tall garden phlox with lavender-pink flower panicles that boast the highest mildew resistance ever recorded by the Mount Cuba Center, earning it the Perennial Plant of the Year award in 2024. The older, unnamed varieties of phlox often fall victim to powdery mildew by mid-July, turning the entire plant into a fire-scarred mess by August. Jana holds the highest mildew resistance score in any Mount Cuba phlox trial, keeping its foliage clean from June through October. Its lavender-pink flower clusters are smaller, but far more numerous than the larger panicles of the David cultivar, attracting more butterflies and hummingbirds per square foot than any other phlox currently in production. Plant Jana in full sun with average soil, water it during the first summer, and watch it return wider and fuller each year for at least 15 years without any division. The bed will smell like summer evenings throughout the entire bloom season, providing a fragrant backdrop that enhances any garden design. In zones 4 to 9, it tolerates winter lows of 30 degrees Fahrenheit. And its compact root system makes it a superb choice for container planting on patios or for raised beds where space is at a premium. Gardeners who combine Jana with low-maintenance ground covers such as Lamium maculatum or with a mass of ornamental grasses notice a seamless transition from the upright phlox spikes to the softer textures below, creating a garden tableau that feels both cultivated and relaxed. A horticultural trial in New York reported a 98% mildew-free rate for Jana over a 5-year period, compared with a 45% infection rate for a popular commercial phlox, underscoring the cultivar's disease-resistant genetics. For added late-season interest, plant a few dwarf ornamental cabbage, Brassica oleracea, purple glory, behind the phlox. The foliage turns deep purple as the phlox's blooms fade, extending color into early winter. Number 2. Baptisia, blue indigo. Envision a 4-foot-tall native prairie perennial with blue indigo spikes that bloom in late May, looking almost identical to a lupine, but with a lifespan that dwarfs any other garden staple. Baptisia, named Plant of the Year in 2010, can live in the same spot for 25 years without any care at all. Its deep taproot, extending 8 to 10 feet within a few years, anchors the plant so firmly that drought, heat waves, deer, insects, and fungal diseases have virtually no effect. After the late May blooms, the flower stalks turn into decorative black seed pods that rattle in the autumn wind, later stripped by goldfinches in winter. The foliage remains a clean blue-green throughout the growing season, and the plant tolerates drought while ignoring summer heat. The practical notes: it takes 3 years to settle, small the first summer, slightly larger the second, and a shrub by the third, after which it becomes the permanent anchor of the bed. Once planted, never attempt to move it. The taproot is unmovable after year 2, and the plant will decide where it lives. If you know someone who has been replacing the same perennials at the garden center every spring for 20 years, send them this guide. One share could end a decades-long cycle of disappointment. In USDA zones 3 to 9, Baptisia endures winter lows of -40 degrees Fahrenheit, and its nitrogen-fixing capability improves soil health for neighboring plants, making it an ideal companion for other prairie natives such as Echinacea, Rudbeckia, or Solidago. Its striking seed pod silhouettes add winter interest, and the plant's ability to thrive in poor rocky soils means it can be used in rock gardens, xeriscapes, or even as a low-maintenance hedge in a mixed border setting. A long-term observation from a Montana homestead shows that a Baptisia planted in 1995 still stands tall and healthy, with its deep taproot contributing to the survival of neighboring wildflowers during a severe drought in 2021. For added color contrast, pair Baptisia with a few clumps of Liatris spicata. The purple flower spikes bloom after Baptisia, extending the vertical interest of the planting scheme. Number 1. Peony. Imagine a plant that, when planted correctly at the proper depth, 2 inches below the soil surface, can live 100 years and beyond, providing fragrant pink double flowers every May and June without ever needing division, replanting, fertilizing after the 3rd year, or pest treatment. The peony my grandmother planted along the side of her house in 1928 still produces beautiful blooms in 2026, having survived 2 world wars, the Great Depression, 3 surrounding bed replants, the death of my grandmother in 1976, the sale of the house, and 2 new owners. Properly planted, a peony becomes a living heirloom, a perennial that outlives every other plant on this list, every plant in your home, and every owner of your property. By the century mark, the plant is still there, still blooming, still offering a vase full of fragrant flowers to the next generation. Plant a peony once at the right depth, walk away, and trust that it will keep doing its job for a century, becoming the silent, steadfast backbone of your garden. In zones 3 to 8, the peony tolerates winter lows of -30 degrees Fahrenheit, and its tuberous roots store enough carbohydrates to survive even the most severe droughts. Because the species is self-compatible, it does not require cross-pollination, yet the scent of the blooms draws countless bees, hoverflies, and even occasional hummingbirds. When paired with low-growing foliage such as heuchera or with early-season crocuses, a peony creates a layered garden that begins with bright spring colors, peaks with the peony's full bloom display, and then recedes gracefully into summer foliage, allowing the garden to transition naturally into the heat of July without a single extra planting. A historic garden in Virginia documented that a peony planted in 1905 still produces robust blooms after more than a century, confirming the plant's legendary longevity. For added winter structure, plant a few low-growth ornamental grasses, such as Festuca glauca, nearby. The blue-grey foliage provides a subtle backdrop that highlights the peony's bold pink flowers when they emerge in spring. So, what if you choose these 12 perennials for your garden? Your garden will no longer be a seasonal patchwork of plants that need constant replacement. It will become a living, breathing structure that builds itself, stands resilient through drought, heat, and the passage of time, and rewards you with year-after-year beauty with minimal effort. If you found this list helpful, please like, subscribe, and support the channel so we can keep sharing the secrets that turn ordinary gardens into lasting works of art.